Hello, hello, how are we all doing? We're back for another painting stream and the second camera's here, so you can finally see my ugly mug while I'm painting as well. How is everybody doing? We're going to be painting some Sons of Horus today. Got a gorgeous Proteus pattern Land Raider here. Going to try and get some base colours on this today, and yeah, there's a few of the bits behind me as well that we might be able to get some base colours on as we start painting. So yeah, last week we were painting some aliens, colonial marines, really cool models. But today, to mix it up a bit, and because I'm lagging behind a little bit with the hair. Hello, it's almost as bad as welcome. Cheers, the hobby room, for your support as ever. Slightly less professional setup than you guys, I imagine. Hey Ben, how's it going? Good to see you in our stream. I may have to borrow your technical expertise at somewhere because this is a tangle of cables and cameras and tripods at the minute. How are we doing? What are you painting today, Ben? Also, is everyone really excited about the Death Guard book? We popped our review up on YouTube and over on the site yesterday. It is such a cool book. Really excited to get some gaming on the go and paint some Death Guard again. Jason said, good afternoon. Jay, have you finished that Horus Heresy army yet? Because, you know, by the end of lockdown, we're going to have to get these on the battlefield. Daniel, good to have some company for my night shift again. What time is it there? It's lunchtime here. Nice lazy morning. Ben, oh, not painting anything yet, cracking on with some more custodians soon enough. Yeah, so if you don't know, if you've not been watching the Warhammer TV stream, Ben's picked up, what, an entire custodian army? You've been cracking through that? Is that like 2 armies that you've painted already in 2021? That's pretty good going. So yeah, what we're going to do today is get some base colours on this Land Raider. Really gorgeous model. For my Heresy army, I wasn't really too bothered with tactics and getting something super competitive. I basically just bought all the models that looked really cool. So I know any pro gamers out in the chat will frown on that. I just wanted to paint some cool toys really. So yeah, what we're going to do is get some Iron Hand steel down on the tracks and the kind of plough at the front and a few bits. And then we're going to go in with Lupercal Green, which is an awesome air colour. And then Sons of Horus Green over that. Just kind of give it a kind of highlighting effect with that. Who we got here? We've got Stucker in the chat. How are we doing? And, Serpent Horde. Amazing. I want to see those. I'm really up for playing some Middle-earth strategy battle game when we can. I've got a box full of hobbits that haven't been painted, and then a Dunland army that I did back in the first lockdown when they came out. So really need to have a game of Middle Earth because unfortunately we've not had much in the chance of gaming at the minute. So what we're going to do is just make sure the airbrush is turned on, always helps. And we're just going to get some base colours down with this. So we're using Iron Hand steel for this. It's a slightly darker metal than the lead belcher that I used in the past. So this is going to go down on the tracks and we'll just slowly build it up. We'll go back into it with a brush once we've done the main colour on the body of the tank. So yeah, not too much of a worry there. We've left this little heavy bolter turret separate and the panel that goes over that as well, just so I could get to the detail on here without obscuring it all. Now, we've not tried the airbrush on stream before, so apologies if there is any sounds. I think these booms may shake a little bit, but we'll see how we go. If it's too noisy, let us know, and future streams we'll stick to brush only, but hopefully this should be alright. So I'm just going to put down a little hint of silver on here. Again, don't need to worry too much about being neat, so we're just going to put in the kind of like base colours and then we'll go back in, because let's face it, I'm going to go over this with the green anyway. Stucker, look at doing a 30k, 40k Iron Hands or Warriors. Nice. Yeah, I I'm really feeling Horus Heresy at the minute. I really hope we see a new kind of like box set for it at some point. The Prospero box and the Calc box were really good for kind of getting into Heresy, so I really do think that if Games Workshop put out a new Heresy starter box, it'd be quite popular. Obviously we don't have any insider info on that, it's just a nice to have. I think it'd be really cool to have. Iron Warriors asleep. Okay, so what's everyone's plans for the week? It's it all seems to merge together in this weird year, I guess, we've had so far. I've done a Dave and got distracted with lots of different bits myself. So Sons of Horus were the main focus over December. I managed to get quite a bit of them painted. But after painting the Aliens figures last week, I kind of want to paint some more of them as well. And also got a Mega Gargant behind me as well that needs some paint on it. So yeah, I think we'll be dipping between projects until February when the new Slaanesh army comes out. And then I think Slaanesh is going to be the focus going forward. So, Jay, 30k is where it's at the moment. Desiccator is basically covered in Forge World resin models right now. What are you building, Jay? Have you got the line built yet? So Jay is building, am I right in thinking you've got Blood Angels and Dark Angels on the go? All of the Angels. I was tempted to do a Dark Angels army myself because the models are gorgeous. Did hear a rumour last year that we might get a plastic MK1B. Well, the Land Raider, yeah, this is the Proteus. It looks like the Epic 40k one. I love the stylings of this. There was the Mark IIB, which I think uses the main plastic chassis of the Land Raider, but has these kind of sponsons on it. And then there's the Proteus, which is pretty much inspired by the original Land Raider with the kind of the guns are fitted to the side of it. I did have one of them a long time ago and it disappeared into the warp. I might have to get another couple of these for the really nice models. So then get the Custodians done, more tanks for the Astra Militarum, and some updates in Pile of Potential. Cool. Jay, Horus Heresy box set would be very cool. I love some plastic assault marines, although I built my Angels Tears and Dawnbreakers this week, and they're fab. Yeah, they are really gorgeous models. Can't wait for a Custodes Codex. Aiming to paint 10 40k Imperial Fists. Yeah, Imperial Fists are nice. Yellow can be tricky to paint at times, but if you pull it off, they look really, really nice. Just going to pop some more paint in here. So yeah, it's definitely been a hobby-filled year so far, and I've got a feeling that we're going to have loads of cool stuff coming out as well. It's been a weird one, because Games Workshop's been doing fortnightly releases in Jan and Feb, I think, to just let the world catch up with releases and stuff. Obviously the Death Guard are meant to come out in December, I believe, and they've been delayed a little bit. But yeah, it's not as if we're struggling for things to paint. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what we get. Well, what does everyone in the chat hope that we get over the next year? Obviously, we've seen rumours of a new edition of Sigmar following the Broken Realms. People talking about new Horus Heresy. Obviously, there's a lot of 40k armies that haven't got books yet. I've got a feeling we might see Games Workshop rattle through the codexes, and then we might, even if we're lucky, get some new armies. I'd love to see the Dark Mechanicum or Traitor Guard get a book this edition. I think that'd be really fun. Again, we don't have any insider knowledge here. This is just stuff that I'd like to see, but it would be cool. It would be really cool. I'm a sucker for jumping on board with a new project, so yeah, giving you shiny toys and I'm going to jump on board. Hobby Room's going to have to bail for a bit. Need to go back. Make sure the better half is okay. I'll be back. Cheers for tuning in. Hope to see you a little bit later on. Building a combat patrol detachment for 40k. Daniel wants to see Fulgrim, of course. Jay wants to see Tyrion and Malarian. Yeah. I mean, Tyrion, I want to see. I mean, I love dragons. I've got the big Forge World one, and I'd love to see Tyrion on a massive dragon. And maybe some like dragon knights for the Lumineth, but on actual dragons rather than horses. I think that'd be really cool. So, I think we're nearly done here with the metal details. So we'll pop that to one side for a minute. And we are going to just put the metal details on here while there's some paint on the airbrush. And yeah, they can be a little bit of a chore with the airbrush sometimes, because obviously there's a lot of cleaning involved. But I find for tanks and space marines and that kind of stuff, being able to cover those the flat panels and stuff with the airbrush is really good. So a little bit of paint left in this. So what I'm going to do is just pop some of this down while I've got it in the airbrush on this Predator that I've got ready here. How's the audio, guys? Hopefully that airbrush isn't too loud, rumbling along in the background. Like I say, if it is causing a bit too much noise, future ones I might do the airbrushing beforehand, but I know a lot of people have said they wanted to see how I paint my Sons of Horus, so thought we'd give it a go with the airbrush on. Who is the Land Raider format? So this is going to be more of a support Land Raider, probably with a maybe even a tactical squad in it that are going to sit on back objectives. The Justarian are going to teleport in with Abaddon or with Horus himself. The Reavers are going to be in a Dreadclaw drop pod, which is really, really cool. And the Veterans, I believe, are going to be in the Termite. Now, if you've read Saturnine, spoilers, the Sons of Horus don't get on too great with their surprise Termite infiltration of the palace. But I thought for lore purposes, they've got to go in it because it looks cool. Audio is fine for me. Awesome, thank you guys. Well, that's good to know. It is very loud, the airbrush. You can get some with internal tank where it'll be a little bit quieter. So I was a bit worried it might drown out the chat a little bit, and yeah, drown out my wittering on in the background. So we've got that. I think we're okay there. So what we're going to do is just quickly clean out the airbrush. So if you're thinking of getting an airbrush, you haven't used one before, what I would advise is giving it a good clean between each colour. So I use Vallejo airbrush cleaner, pop it just into the cup like you would the paints. In fact, I might just show you on here how I go about cleaning. Get an old brush that you don't care about, and then put that over here. So what you can get is a little jug essentially with an airbrush holder on it, and you can use this for cleaning your brush. It's got a little filter so all the nasty fumes go away. Now, advice for anyone doing it, really you should be wearing a mask while doing this. I'm being very naughty and not wearing one, but it is quite well ventilated in here. If you are, you know, susceptible to fumes and stuff, the filter stuff's fine, but the problem is that it puts it into tiny particles that can get trapped in your lungs. And obviously the airbrush cleaner is a little bit nastier as well, so don't do it under your nose because it's just going to do nasty things to your circulation system. So we're giving that a bit of a stir in there, and then what we'll do, we'll just cover the end of the airbrush and just run some air through it so that the air will blow back any of the paint residue through it, and then shoot it through into your pot, and that'll get rid of the majority of the muck in there. So that is shot through, and what I normally will do is just give that a bit of a wipe as well. What you'll find is that paint will tend to collect inside the cap there, and it can cause it to not spray properly. but that seems okay. So what we'll do is move on to the next colour, which is going to be Lupercal Green, I believe. So, Lupercal Green, we'll give it a good shake. So what's going down in the chat while waiting for this to mix up? So Dan Watson, I managed to pick up an old Chaos Dread colour recently, looking forward to using it. Excellent. Hamster Raff, good to see him, dude. Spray can is enough moving parts for me to deal with, though I can see why people use airbrushes. Yeah, so I've been lucky that there was a break in the weather today to base coat stuff. Now I think a can of Citadel spray paint's about a tenner. I have used this stuff in the past, Vallejo Surface Primer. This whole bottle was about £8, and I've had it a year now, and it's still 3/4 full. Based all on my Zone Mortalis stuff with that. I do prefer using the rattle cans for priming, just because this stuff because it's a primer, it can gunk up your airbrush something good. So you've got to make sure you give it a proper clean, and if you don't, then you're going to have to spend half an hour fixing and cleaning your airbrush when you get back into it. So, Dave says, afternoon all. The prophet of Nurgle has arrived. Spreading Nurgle's love. So, yeah, Nurgle has, bless you, Dave. So, maybe that'll rub off on your Death Guard army, and you'll be able to roll all the save in the world. So, the Horus Heresy, which side would you have joined, says Jay? It's going to have to be the bad guys, isn't it? Painting the Sons of Horus, so... yeah, definitely not going to be on the Emperor's side in that one. So what I do when I'm adding a new colour, I add a tiny drop of airbrush flow improver. So the Citadel air paints are pre-thinned, so you don't need to worry too much about thinning them down. Some colours you might need a drop or two of thinner, but I do tend to find if you put just a drop or two of airbrush flow improver in, it stops it from drying on the needle and just makes it a lot easier to work with. So we'll put a couple of drops of that in, and then what I'm going to do is put in some of this Lupercal Green. Now with the silver I just added it with the brush. This I'm just going to pour it straight into the cap of the airbrush, just to we're going to be using quite a bit of this, so let's pop a bit of this in here. So I know a lot of people prefer some other brands because you've got the really handy thing of a dropper bottle for your paints. Obviously Games Workshop ones don't come with a dropper bottle, but it is easy enough to transfer them with a brush or just pour it into the top of it. The good thing with the Citadel paints is that they do colour match the main Citadel range. And then I've got a really scally looking bit of paper that I use just for testing the flow and getting the colour through. There we go, we've got some paint coming through now. So, I guess a quick airbrush 101. You've kind of got two controls on the airbrush. Pushing it down will release air, but it won't put any paint through until you pull the plunger back. And the further you pull it back, the more paint comes through. So it's kind of a bit like patting your head and rubbing your belly sometimes, that you're controlling both of those axes to get the flow that you want. So, let's get this tank out and we'll start just slowly building up the base colours. You don't need to worry about putting it on too thick. You can build it up in a few layers. Essex Boy says the Vallejo primer is great. It is really good stuff. You just need to watch your airbrush after it. Danny Watson, I know what I want from Games Workshop this year. 1000 Suns Blue in air. It's an awful paint to thin down for the airbrush. Yeah, the air range is really, really good because it's pre-thinned. Now, careful they don't have all of the paints in the range. Just check that out. Essex Boys, I have got, I don't know if you can see, an Iwata Revolution CR. I might upgrade to another airbrush this year with a thinner needle. For what I do, I mean, predominantly putting down base colours and doing some basic blends and transitions, it's absolutely fine for the job. So, let's just start getting some colour down on this. Now obviously it's a big old tank, so it might take us a little while to get all this covered. We don't need to worry too much about hitting everything. And as you can see, as we go over with other layers, the green will start to build up. These greens are really nice. Now I believe they used to sell these from Forge World as part of their air range. And I think they were so popular they brought them to the main Citadel line, which is really good. If you're painting Sons of Horus, these colours are pretty much perfect for the kind of sea green for the Sons of Horus. So this dark one goes on first, and then over this we will put Sons of Horus green, which is a slightly lighter one. We'll do that a little bit more controlled, hitting like the top surfaces. I would recommend an airbrush to anyone who is into painting or paints a lot of stuff, just because it makes jobs like this so much easier to get a nice smooth coat across the model. Just take a little bit of getting used to, but yeah, you haven't got the brush marks or anything that you might have if you're trying to do this by hand, and that makes my life a lot easier. What you tend to find as well, it'll dry a lot quicker through the airbrush as well. So yeah, by the time I've done this, I'll probably be ready to start putting on the Sons of Horus green, which is cool. The Traitor Legions seem to have all the fun colour schemes. That's because the Traitor Legions are the best legions at Hamster of Wrath. Anyone may lie and tell you that the Loyalists are where it's at. They'd be wrong. Death of the False Emperor and all that. So what you sometimes find is that it'll come out a bit sporadically. What it normally means is that you've got, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but there'll be a little bead of paint that's just dried on the needle. So if you just get rid of that, give it a little test, we should be good to go again. And you'll find that'll happen when you use the airbrush for long periods. Just a natural thing of the paint starting to dry on the needle. So the best thing to do really is short controlled bursts and just slowly build up the colours. Don't worry about rushing too much. So here it's a little bit patchy, so once that's dried we'll go over it with another colour, and then it should. I mean, to be fair, that's coming out okay. For Russ and the Allfather, you just know, now I am a filthy traitor, but I would quite fancy doing a Space Wolf force for Horus Heresy. I have also, don't tell anyone, but in a box below this desk I have got the startings of a White Scars army. If I want to do a completely mounted White Scars force, I think that'd be something really fun to paint up. Okay, so you may not be able to see a second. I'm just going to take this off this turntable. Again, not worried about being too neat at this point, because I can go back in with a brush and go over any details that I've gone over. The real benefit of the airbrush is just getting these base colours down nice and quickly. Okay. So I think there is a lot of love for the Horus Heresy in the chat. What releases do you guys want to see next for the army? I know Jay's mentioned plastic submarines being awesome. I'd like to see some plastic Mark 1 rhinos. I think that'd be really cool. It's yeah, I can see, as much as I'd like a new rule set based on the latest edition of 40k, I don't think it's going to happen, just based on the fact that a lot of people have invested money into the black box that you might see just on the lower shelf down there somewhere. The big black box, obviously about £80 each. It's a big investment for those supplements, and I think a lot of people would be a little bit annoyed if they were essentially rendered invalid in a new edition of the game. So because of that, I think that it's unlikely we'd see a total replacement of the system. But a new rule book, and especially if it was packaged in a new box set, something we've seen for all the systems, even Middle Earth, is a big plastic box set with the rule book thrown in. I think that's something that Horus Heresy needs to get people into the game. Even if it's the current rule book they've got just in paperback or something in there, I do think that would help the player base and get people in. So yeah. So we've got Hamster of Wrath. A model that big with a brush would take ages. Yeah, and the problem is it's hard to try and get a consistent colour across the whole model as well. Dave says, yeah, more plastic, ideally a starter set. A starter set would be absolutely amazing for the Horus Heresy. Really want to see that. I did build a 30k Space Wolf Force, but it was before the decks and models were out, so I have to make. I have a lot to make and can't use them. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the downsides, something we've seen with the Death Guard book. Just be careful when you're putting together your models, because you never know. You never know when the unit construction is going to change. For the Death Guard, it's pretty much, if you build it with models that are in the box, you're okay. When you start trying to min-max and have additional parts and take multiple weapons from different kits, unfortunately that's now invalid. I do wonder if this is something we're going to see for the other 40k armies. So someone on our WhatsApp was saying the other day, maybe the Adeptus Mechanicus Aquabus rifles, I think are 2 to a box, and I think you can do squads with 4 of them in currently. So I do wonder if that is something that might change in a new Adeptus Mechanicus book. Hopefully not. You know, it's always a shame when units you've got are invalid and you have to tweak them a bit. When it's done for a balance reason, I understand. It's just a little bit frustrating if you want to buy a new kit to get the unit complete. So we shall see. I've got some 4 multi-melter sister units, so if they have a similar logic where you can only have what's in the box, that'd be a maximum of 2, I believe. Thankfully, I can probably shuffle them around in some other squads. So, Daniel, I'd like to see a demon version of the Primarchs for the Siege. Yes, now, this is something we've often discussed on the podcast. Now, obviously, we've got some demon Primarch models. The question is, would Games Workshop release some Siege-specific ones, or would they just use the models they've already got? I'd hope that we'd get some Siege-specific demon Primarchs. That'd be really cool, you know, especially with the, you know, we know how good the Collector Series models are. So yeah, I'd be interested to see that. The Emperor, I'd love to see Malkador the hero. Yeah, I would love to see a Malkador model. He doesn't really take part in any fights. I've always thought he'd be a good like show-only model, or a Warhammer World exclusive model, or even just a collector series just to paint up. I'd as much as I'm a filthy traitor, I would love to see a Malkador model, because he's one of my favourite characters from the series. He's such a dude. Dave says, thank goodness I didn't pull the trigger on my melee Plague Marine unit. And so, been telling Dave he needs to get Mortarion before he even thinks about any more Plague Marine units, because Mortarion in the new Codex is absolutely amazing. I think he's the best unit in the book. There we go. Daniel, Havoc's holding all those chain guns look like a candidate for being nerfed. Yes, I would agree, Daniel. Hamster Wrath, they try not to invalidate people's squad builds, but it does happen more often than not. Jay the Angel Tears, base the drawing time to shade some Dark Angel Breaches. Wolves fully built with Mark 4s as Legion Tactical Marines, but Wolves cannot use them. Oh, that's a shame. I mean, anyone that you're playing against, I'm sure would let you use them. Horus Heresy is more of a narrative game anyway, rather than, you know, super competitive, win at all costs. I certainly wouldn't have any issues with somebody using, you know, even unit options that you can't have. It all works out in the end. Hamster Wrath, I'm a heretic anyway, somewhat retired from Warhammer, but I like watching people paint and chatting about lore. Excellent. Daniel, I really hope Malcator gets a book like Valdor and Luther did. Yeah, I would buy a Malcator book. I really like him. It's a shame he doesn't survive the heresy. He sits on the throne, doesn't he, and just gets turned to dust. So we'll see what happens at the end of the Siege of Terror series for him. Dave, just wash the bases of the Scorpec Lord and 5 Necron Warriors next to wash the next 5 Warriors. So if you don't know, Dave's on a bit of a hobby challenge this year. He is trying to paint up a unit. Is it a unit? Just one unit per week, fully painted, fully based. And I think you managed to do it every week so far, haven't you, Dave? You've definitely given it a good go. So we'll do this. Again, this one, it's only really this portion of it that we can see. So I'm just going to put the impression of a green on there. And then it's kind of just... You've got the illusion of that then when it's going around in the turret. All my kind of gun barrels and stuff, all this stuff's going to be washed down with Basilica and grey just to get this really dark and gritty looking. So that's that done. We'll see how the tank's getting on. We might just need to pop on another coat of green on the top here. Oh, the light's going to be hitting it. Oh, if you do airbrush, one of these turntables is really, really handy for painting your model. Obviously something with the tank's going to sit on it. If you're painting like tactical marines or something, obviously they're probably going to fly off when you're airbrushing them. So what I'll probably do is just blue tack them to it, and then at least you can get your highlights and your colours in from an angle then. But yeah, I think we're nearly there with the base colour on this. Really happy with that. One of the best things about an airbrush is it's so quick to get the base colours on. It's what we've been streaming for, what, half an hour maybe? And half of that I've been chatting. We've pretty much got this base colour down now. I've got a little bit of paint left in the pot, so we'll just get this down, cover any patches that we've got, and then what we'll do is we'll give the airbrush a good clean before we start putting down the next colour. Because obviously this is a much darker colour. For some things, say if I was painting flesh on a Mega Gargant or something, I'd probably keep some of the previous colour in there just to blend them together. But more so for control, I've noticed there's been a few splutters and you kind of get a feeling of how the airbrush is reacting, if it's starting to get jammed or gunked up a little bit. Cool, I think we are good there, so we are going to pop some cleaner through that. We'll give the airbrush a bit of a clean, and then yeah, we'll crack on with the next colour. So what we've got going down in the chat, so Dave says 1 unit per week. I'll post this week's update shortly, so that will be on spruesandbrews.com. I'm sure Dave will pop in a link to his previous one. In fact, he might have already done that. Cheers, Dave. Hamster Wrath, I'm not going to roll all the Necrons are easy to paint joke. Oh, hang on, sorry, not sorry. Dave's put the link in for last week's, along with, I think we've got the aliens and the Sons of Horus and Jay's supremacy suit in that post. Some really cool stuff in there. Is Neutrino 9 doing Valdor in his first Look Club book? Is it good then? Especially in all that nice work. So far I've managed 17 days of Warhammer, got 21 minis done so far, and now starting a Vindicator, which has been assembled for 2 years. Excellent. It's always nice when you can clear out small models that you've built, maybe you've primed, they've been sat there for ages, and you finally get around to finishing them off. It's always a really nice feeling when you can do that. So we've gunked this up a little bit. Won't take too long just to clean it out, and then it's what I found with the airbrush. It's better to kind of clean it as you go and make sure that it's running okay. One of the problems that you can have is if you leave it till the end and don't clean it till then, it can sometimes be really tough to get it running again. And that's one of the mistakes I made when I first started using an airbrush, that I didn't bother cleaning it properly, because I was like, yeah, I just put another colour through anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, unfortunately it does matter, because it's gonna jam up your airbrush and make it a bit difficult to use. It's like one of those things. It's you pick up these things as you're using it, and as you get a feel for it, from the sound of it or how it's spraying, you'll get a feel of how the airbrush is reacting. So yeah, and again, just blowing back through it will just basically dislodge any paint that's attached to the needle. So yeah, like I say, just put some air through it, you'll see it bubbling, and then just shoot it back out the airbrush, and you're done. Obviously, once we get to the end, we'll give this a full proper clean and we'll take it apart. We'll have to take the needle out and make sure that's okay. What I'm just going to do is just grab some tissue, which I haven't got to hand, so I'll be back momentarily. Hello again. So yeah, foolishly didn't leave any tissue there. It's always worth having some on hand, just so you can clean out your airbrush a little bit. So I'll just take the cap off here. Needle looks okay, so it's just, see the cap's got a bit of green in there, so we'll just clean that out a little bit. Would advise wearing gloves as well when you're airbrushing, because otherwise your hand's gonna get covered in paint. I picked up a box of like 200 gloves off Amazon that are still going strong, so yeah, really good. Dave, the scheme is super straightforward. Is this your Necron? So yeah, Dave, what are they? Silver, wash them down, and then contrast for the oranges with an orange highlight on that. They look really, really nice. I'm impressed. House of Wrath said with love, I kid, they look good. When I see most people's work in progress shots, they would be my I'm done pictures. I'm forever doing that. I set the paint up and forget the tissue's kitchen roll and then immediately need it. Yeah, it's always the way, especially when you're live on a stream. So another thing to watch out with on the airbrush, and you won't be able to see, so I'll just take my word for it. There's a moisture capture in the airbrush. So as you're airbrushing, condensation will kind of condense in this little moisture capture, and what can happen is that liquid can end up going through the pipe into your airbrush. So you just need to make sure that every now and then you release that moisture capture. So on my on a water air compressor, and it's just a case, it's got a little release plunger. You press that, the liquid will come out, and then you're good. So just going to do that now if you hear a funny noise. So yeah, there's a little bit of moisture in there, which when you start to see the airbrush speckling, or it's hard to describe. You'll know that there's something not quite right with the flow of the airbrush. So just make sure you release that, and it should be back to normal again. Yeah, so it should be good to go there. So next, what we're going to do is get a model just to use as a colour match, just to make sure it's not going on too heavily. And then we're going to put Sons of Horus green over this. Again, we're going to be focusing on the higher areas to try and get a bit of a highlighting effect and some transitions there. So yeah, let's get what we're going to use here. So if we get him as an example. So here's my Praetor. I think it's actually Malachus the Twisted. I don't know if you can see too well there, but he's quite a lighter green compared to the Land Raider. So what we're going to do is get him there just to try and get the colour right, and then we'll hit all of this with Sons of Horus green. So this is the fun bit, getting all the transitions in. I enjoy this bit, but I'm a bit sad like that. So what's the favourite model that everybody's painted out in the chat? I thoroughly enjoyed painting up Horus over the first week of December. Really enjoyed doing him. It was such a nice model to paint up. All-time favourite models, Vorgorath, the big Forge World Dragon, has got to be one of them. It's such an impressive kit. Mariva Titan really enjoyed doing. I really enjoyed painting the Indomitus Necrons as well. I think it was all the excitement of the Indomitus box and the fact we managed to get it a little bit early. It was really exciting painting them out. I did burn myself out on them because I painted like 2 boxes worth in a short space of time. So wouldn't recommend doing that if you value your sanity. But yeah, it's I do tend to skip around on projects every now and then because I find that it's good to enjoy what you're painting. And if it gets to the point where it feels a bit of a chore, then it's not going to work. So I will tend to power through an army and maybe have a few random breaks in the middle. Like Archaon. Archaon's a really nice model, but it took me 2 months to paint Archaon, which is a long time for me. Just because, I don't know, I wasn't feeling painting it at times and wanted something else. So rather than kind of burn myself out and decide, actually, I wasn't enjoying painting this model, just took a break and painted something completely different, just to mix things up a little bit. So Dave said the Demon Prince of Nurgle is currently my favourite painted model. So I take it your Demon Prince is having your precious Lord of the Death Guard slot in your army, Dave. It's going to be a hard choice for some Death Guard players now, picking what model gets that precious slot. Why do the Sons of Horus and Wordbearers have such awesome kits? Because they're the best, basically. I really like the Gorval Brak, the Wordbearer Possessed. I would be very tempted to do an army of them. Again, I've got about 1 million armies on the go, so it's not going to be anytime soon, but I'd really like to do them. Jay enjoyed painting Valdor. Working up all the goals was fun. Hamster Wrath, also hide the pile of grey plastic from yourself or they'll haunt your dreams. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can see behind me, there's a lot of unpainted stuff down here that desperately needs painting. All Slanesh stuff, so I'm kind of on holding fire on them until the new book comes out, just in case I need to switch anything in my army composition. But yeah, it's always a good feeling when you get your pile of potential, as the hobby room would call it, down. So what we're going to do is do the scary bit and try and get these transitions on. So again, same as before. I'm just going to hit this very lightly. So I don't know how well you can see that on camera there, but we've got the light going to the dark now. And what we're going to do is just focus on these raised areas. Now the airbrush is spitting a little bit, which suggests that the nozzle isn't clean here. I'm just going to give that air trap another little spray, because it's, yeah, there's some moisture in there. So the best way to stop that moisture collecting is like I say, painting short bursts. Now obviously on this we haven't been too much, we've been doing quite long continuous bursts, so that's why there's a bit of moisture in the trap, so just be careful with that. I don't know if you can actually see here, I don't know if you can see on the camera, but you'll just see it start to speckle a little bit, is when you know that you just need to keep an eye on it really. Matthew Pond, I love doing Catacross. I'm a sucker for any kit that's inherently a diorama. The Catacross kit is absolutely amazing. I very nearly did a Bone Reaper army. I actually started doing one, but yeah, I just couldn't get. I don't know what it was. It just didn't click with me when I started painting them. But Catacross is a model I would like to paint at some point because it is very, very nice. I believe Dave is also doing a Bone Reaper army. Is Catacross on your list of things that you're going to have in your army, Dave? It's definitely one that I think... Did you, Matthew, did you build it in sub-assemblies and then put it all together at the end? I imagine it being a bit tricky to paint fully built. Definitely a nice kind of modeller's piece, that. One thing that often can get in the way are these little turrets, the sponsons. So just careful with those when you're doing it. Again, I'll just try and do transition on here. I don't know how well you guys can see that transition. Oh, it's showing a little bit, isn't it? It's so much quicker than trying to do this with a brush though. The airbrush makes it nice and easy to do. Okay, there's a bit more paint in there. What's going down in Chatland? Daniel Watson, as good as some of the Wordbearer kits are, I think it's balanced with that dreadful Possessed Dreadnought. It's the worst sculpt in 30k. Controversial, I quite like that Dreadnought myself. Oh, Hamster Rifle says it's ugly as a bag of hammers. Wow, I don't know. It's got a charm to it personally. It's some of the older kits have dated a little bit. So the Sons of Horus Reavers, we grab one here. These are another candidate for when a plastic assault marine box comes out for Heresy. I think you do a better job. I'm not overly keen on these guys, but I think they were one of the first models that came out for the range, so you know, sculpting, the models, everything's come on a long way since the game came out, so yeah, some of them have dated a little bit. You look at the recent kits, like the new Night Lord Terminators are gorgeous, all the new Dark Angel stuff's gorgeous. So hopefully at some point they'll go back and add some new models for those older Rangers. And when we saw it with the Emperor's Children, we've got Soul Tarvets, which I've actually got some. Let me grab that. Yeah, really, really nice model. It looks so cool compared to some of the old Emperor's Children kit, so we'll be building him up at some points. I'm going to have to paint him as a filthy loyalist, aren't I? But it does give me options then for my son's my Emperor's Children force. Another thing with the airbrush, just make sure you test from a bit of paper before you commit to your model, because it will take a little while for the paint to kind of get through as well, and you don't want to just be blowing thinner or something on your model, because that's not going to end well for anyone. So Jay, I paint all my tanks with a brush, very time consuming. Yeah, Jay, I've said this before, buy an airbrush, dude. It's the most useful thing that I have bought. Well, I say bought. My wife got it me for Christmas, so I was very lucky there. It is a big outlay. I think this airbrush itself is about 130. The compressor, I think, was closer to 200 and something. And then obviously all the air paints. You can use standard paints. Just bear in mind that you're going to have to thin them down to the right consistency. Something you'll often see is that once they are the consistency of milk, they should be thin enough to spray through the airbrush without any problems. It is a bit of a balancing act, because too thin, you're going to end up with it running everywhere. Too thick, you're going to get kind of bottling effects on there because it's too thick to go through the airbrush. So that's why I got all the air colours, because at least I know I can just pop it in the cap of here, a little bit of flow improver, and jobs are good. Jay loves the word bearer models. We've got the new Praetor coming soon as well. They're previewed not long ago. Yeah, they were previewed sometime last year, and they was it the same preview as Sol Tarvitz? So hopefully they're not too far off. Daniel, I'm waiting to throw my money at Forge World for those Praetors. We'll make Lords or something in my 40k army. Yeah, that is a really good shout. Left off the attendants and magnetise them so I can remove them as they die. Without that, I'd never remember what special rules they have. Yeah, so if you've not played Age of Sigmar, Catacross has basically special rules that reduce as his attendants get taken out. And yeah, that's a great idea from Matthew, that having them removable, put some magnets or something on them, at least you can keep track of what bonuses you've still got. Daniel Watson says he's not a loyalist, he's a very naughty boy. I mean, Alfarius. I'd end up shotgunning paint everywhere, probably. Just give it some practice. Just take a little while to get used to, because it is, it is a different way of painting, and it does take a little while to master it. I'm by no means a pro with the airbrush, but I've had about a year's practice with it now, so I can almost make up what I'm doing with it. Where it comes into its own is stuff like this, stuff with flat panels, tanks, scenery. It makes it so much easier, because it can be hard to disguise those brush strokes unless you put on like a million thin coats. So what I'm trying to do here, I don't know if you can see that too well, maybe you can. Just kind of hit the brighter colours in the centre of these panels and leave a little bit of darkness around them, just to give a bit of an illusion of highlighting. It really is cheating a little bit with the airbrush, but it works really well. I use the same technique on my Necromunda, Zone Mortalis scenery. If you've seen my guide over on Warhammer Community, I actually painted that up using an airbrush. And while you can get that same scheme with a paintbrush, it's just going to take you a little bit longer to get that effect. So yeah, anything that gives you a little head start in being able to paint stuff always helps in my book. So I think we're nearly there with the colour there. I'm quite happy with that. It's getting to that nice sea green colour of the Sons of Horus, and it's taken us what, an hour nearly to get those down. So yeah, pretty happy with the progress there. So next job will be going in just some of these other panels just to get the green highlight on them. Obviously we need to build up the colour on this panel as well, so we'll add a little bit more paint to this, and then we should be nearly done with these base colours. We need to do some on the sponsons as well, don't we? We'll hit that with a little bit of a colour. Sponsons not too concerned with, because they're going to be quite weathered, because they're rotating. The paint's going to chip off it, so we'll probably do a lot of weathering and kind of battle damage on those. So a little bit more flow improver for the next bit of paint. We'll pop this in, and then while I'm just shaking this bottle, we'll see how everybody is in the chat. So, I've been thinking of building and painting one HQ1 troop from every first founding this year. That sounds pretty cool. I quite like the idea of that. I've been tempted to paint up each Primarch. Obviously not all in one go, but very slowly over the course of the next couple of years. Just because I really enjoyed painting Horus. It's I think it'd be nice to paint up one for each Legion, just as something a bit different. You know, I've never painted any Ultramarines, but I'd quite like to paint up the 30k Gulliman. So yeah, I think there's some. With there being quite a lot of different techniques involved and different schemes, I think it'd be quite fun to paint them up really. Hamster Wrath, I like the idea of Catacross. You slap him around hard enough and he gets off his throne and comes after you. Exactly. You don't be messing with him. I do love the fact that in the rules profile even represents that he. It's only when he's really, really angry that he'll come at you. So what we're going to do is just hit this with the green. I don't know if you can see that. Let's take the Land Raider out of the way for now. Oops. Should be able to see that a little bit better now, guys. And again, we're going to do the same thing here. We're just going to hit the raised areas with the airbrush. And then that is your highlighting magically done, really. I think we're pretty much there colour-wise, aren't we? Yeah, it's just... So you do have quite a bit of control with the airbrush. You can, I don't know if you can see that, let's bring this a little bit higher, but you can kind of hit these kind of angles. An alternative to doing it like this is spray it black and then hit these edges with white. Paint's translucent, so when you put your initial coat over it, the bits over the white will be lighter than the black, giving you kind of a natural highlighting as you go. With the Sons of Horus, because they've got the Lupercal green and the Sons of Horus green, which are like perfectly complement each other, I've not had to do that. I do believe in the air range there are like complementary colours to paint all of the Horus Heresy legions, because a lot of them came from the old Forge World paints that they'd formulated to paint them. So it's worth saying as well that these paints do go on with a brush as well. You'll need a couple of coats because they are thinned down quite a bit, but yeah, they are absolutely fine. Most of the colours are available as standard Citadel paints as well. There's a couple. I haven't got one to hand here, sorry. But the gloss paints, the clear paints, are amazing. So if you're painting, say, Thousand Suns, and you want some that nice candy red, there's Angron red. If you put that over a metallic, or you know, even just like a gloss black, then put that over it, it looks amazing. Friend of the show, Runebrush, did his Golden Demon winning Porphyrion with that paint, and it looks incredible. I used the gloss black, the clear black, on Horus and Abaddon as well, and I'm going to be painting my my 40k Black Legion army using it because I really like the effect that it gives. There's a purple one as well, I think it's finishing purple maybe, which would be really nice for kind of gloss armoured Emperor's Children. I just think that those kind of gloss colours work really well for the Heresy armies, especially if it's Traitor, because I don't know, I think there's a nice juxtaposition in having nice kind of gloss polished armour for your evil Space Marines. Cool, so I think we've got that piece down. Again, we're just going to go in and just give a little impression of a highlight on these, and that's all we'll need because a lot of that's going to be hidden by the rotation anyway. and just gives that illusion of the colour there. And then we've got a little bit of paint left in here, so we've just, like we said earlier, just hit some of those edges to get those highlights down. So what have we got going down? So you've read the new Death Guard book, Matt. Can you give us some highlights? So yeah, Death Guard book. There are changes. So if you are an existing Death Guard player, you will probably have to adapt your army. So the biggest thing that's going to impact people is the Lord of the Death Guard rule. So you can only have one model per detachment with the Lord of the Death Guard rule. And a lot of units in the army have got that Lord of the Death Guard keyword. So Demon Princes, Lord of Contagion, Lord of Virulence, your Chaos Lord, Chaos Terminator Lord, and I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. Basically, oh, and Typhus. All the kind of Lord level models have got this Lord of the Death Guard keyword. And what that means is if you want to take, say, Typhus and a Demon Prince, you're going to have to put them in different detachments. So that is probably going to affect existing players the most. One of the other things that has changed a little bit is the army construction. Like the Lord of the Dance, but more gooey. Exactly, Hamster Wrath. Exactly. So yeah, one of the other things that has changed is the army construction, in that you can't take more Poxwalker units than you've got core Bubonic Astartes units. So your Bubonic Astartes core units as well. So they are going to be your Plague Marines, your Possessed, and both the Terminators. So if you took one of those units, that then unlocks one Poxwalker unit. So you wouldn't be able to take 2 units of Poxwalkers unless you maybe, I don't know, added a unit of Possessed or something. So some people have pointed out the new box set that's come out from Games Workshop has 30 Poxwalkers. With just the contents of that box, you can only use 20 of them. You'd need to add another unit of Plague Marines or a unit of Terminators in order to unlock the second unit of Poxwalkers. Poxwalkers are really good. I was always a fan of Poxwalkers. I think they're a little bit better in here. We've seen changes to Disgustingly Resilient over the book. So it used to be a 5+ wound shrug that I used to be really fluky at rolling. I got some green dice. I'm sure they were weighted because I always rolled 5. But that's gone now. So in its place, they reduced damage taken by 1. So if you got shot by a damage 2 weapon, you'd only take 1 damage. And considering Plague Marines now have 2 wounds and are toughness 5, they're going to be really hard to chew through. There's actually ways of getting them up to toughness 6 as well, with some of the psychic powers they've got. And the Plague Surgeon gives them a 6+ wound shrug, which is really good. But the Poxwalkers have got their own innate 6+ wound shrug. And whenever they kill a model, it gets an additional Poxwalker added to their unit. So the really nice little tar pit unit that you can sit in an objective and just take damage all day. Likewise, you can get them up to toughness 5, I think, and strength 5, I want to say. Typhus increases their strength by 1, and again you can use that same psychic power to get their toughness up as well. Really, really nasty. I think they're going to get a lot of work done. One thing to bear in mind with Poxwalkers though is that they can't do any actions. So if you've got any objectives that need actions doing, your Poxwalkers aren't going to be the ones to do it. However, there is a Death Guard specific mission in the book, objective in the book, where you've got to corrupt each objective on the board, and each one you do, I think you get 3 victory points, so quite a reliable one to rack up your victory points. And what you do is you roll a dice, on a 4+, you corrupt that objective, and then you lose D3 models from the unit. Now, as the Poxwalkers don't care about losing D3 models, it's it's definitely a good one for them to do. And obviously they can use their 6+ shrug on that as well, so there's a good chance you don't actually lose any models. So yeah, really like the Poxwalkers. I think they're going to be really good. Mortarion is crazy good. So when you add him to the army, in fact on the first turn, before the first turn starts, you select a contagion for him to have. So in the book you've got 7, I reckon, plague companies, each with different contagions that they can have. My go-to one is, I think it's Mortarion's Anvils. It gives Mortarion, if he takes that contagion, a 9-inch aura where he can't do any overwatching, and people can't be affected by rerolls. So if anyone's got a reroll aura, it just shuts them down, which is really, really good. Impressed with how that is. It's going to be really good. It's hard at the minute because we're not playing any games, so all this is on paper at the minute. But I can see the Death Guard performing really well. So the marble base of Gulliman is really nice. Yes, it is. Have you painted the Heresy Gulliman, Dave? I want to say you have. I used clear blue for the portal on my Fane. Worked really well. Dave says, do airbrush paints dry quicker? Yeah, generally, but by the way that they're applicated, they'll dry quicker. Like this is pretty much dry now. I find that once I've done kind of one colour, I can probably go back and add the next colour. So yeah, dry really quickly. Daniel Watson says they do because they're so thin, unless you're bad at it like me. Hey, it's not about being bad at airbrushing. It takes practice. It took me a while to get used to how it works, and like I say, I'm not a pro at this. I can get the colours where they need to be, and that's good enough for me at the minute. Daniel Watson says the layers. So the guy I used to play against had Dark Eldar, was stupid good at rolling his 5+ saves on vehicles, not irritating at all. Yeah, it's if you play against someone who's really lucky and those disgusting resilient rolls in the old rules, yeah, they were frustrating to play against. I was a little bit upset at first that they'd removed it. On having been able to be lucky enough to read the full codex, they're not in a bad place really. They've got higher toughness, they've got more wounds. There is still that way of giving them a 6+ wound shrug. I don't think that the Death Guard are going to have any problems at all. I think there's been a lot of kind of knee-jerk, oh no, we're going to have to change my army because of Lord of the Death Guard. Worst case, you can just add a second detachment. It's only a couple of command points, and I prefer it to be interesting to have a choice of how you spend those command points. And it may be that actually it is worth spending those 2 command points on adding an additional detachment and unlocking a second Lord of the Death Guard. The only unit that I think really harms from that is the new Lord of Virulence. I really like the model, but I think he's got a lot of competition in that Lord of the Death Guard slot. And I'd quite like to take one, but I don't know if I'd take him over Typhus, just because Typhus adds quite a lot. I play quite a Poxwalker heavy army, so Typhus is a no-brainer for me. And the army that I built with Mortarion and Typhus, it doesn't really make sense for me to take a second detachment to add him. So Daniel Watson, just a thought, last week you guys were lamenting the loss of the glazes. I wonder if the clear air paints would work as good replacements. So the clear air paints are, I believe they're all gloss, so you're not going to get the same effect. So if we say Bloodletter Glaze, for example, I use on faces to get a bit of coloration around the face, make it look a bit more realistic. I use it to colour the lower lip, just makes them look a bit more human. You're not going to be able to do that with the clear airbrush paints because they're gloss, so it's going to have a different effect. Now, what I do need to experiment with are the contrast colours, because in theory, if you take a contrast red, you might have to mix like a orange red to get the similar effect to this. I am on a quest to find a replacement for this, and I will put a guide on the site if I can manage to cook up anything. But I think you're going to have to mix some red and orange contrast colours, thin it down with a lot of contrast medium, and you should get a similar kind of thing. You can make a glaze out of standard paints as well, but it's just getting that colour right, isn't it? Because yeah, that's going to be half the battle. Legion Master Jacopo, hello there. How are we doing, sir? Thanks for joining us. We are painting up some Sons of Horus today with this gorgeous Proteus pattern Land Raider, which just fills me with nostalgia for Epic 40k. Really looking forward to finally getting the Sons of Horus on the battlefield, because yeah, it's been a long time since we've been able to play a game. We had that, what, 2 weeks maybe of eased lockdown restrictions, and unfortunately since then, certainly here in the UK, we've been back in lockdown, so we've not managed to play any games, which is a shame because there's loads of cool stuff that we really want to play. I know a lot of people have been using Tabletop Simulator. For me, half the enjoyment is the fun of pushing around painted miniatures on the battlefield. So so Tabletop Simulator for me really doesn't cut it, unfortunately. Hamster a Wrath. The daft thing when you could have 5+ and 6+ shrug rules stack up, you had a sort of a time killing things. Very Nurgle. Yeah, it's that's something they've tended to have phased out of all the games recently. All these stacking wound shrugs were really frustrating to to play against, so I am glad they've got rid of them. Okay, so we have got pretty much all the base colours down. So this is going to sit in there, and then this piece will go over here like so. And the colour looks okay. So what we're going to do next is go in with some silver just to touch up the areas that we've missed, paint some rivets and do all that kind of fun stuff. So what we're going to do is just flush through the airbrush, just give this a proper clean, and then we will crack on with painting that. And then the plan after that is we'll put Basilicarum Grey over the silver bits. That will darken them down quite a lot, and then we will go in and start weathering some of the tank. We might paint in some edge highlight lines just to really kind of make them pop a bit. I'm fairly happy with the colour of that. I think he's turned out all right. So how many people are still playing 30k? I know a lot of people cry out about the death of the Horus Heresy, but I think it's overstated. I think a lot of people still play the game. A lot of people certainly paint the models because they're beautiful models. So in the chat, do you guys play some Heresy, or have you been focused on 40k? I know the 9th edition of 40k has been a really, really fun thing to play through, and we've really enjoyed the games that we've managed to do. Crusade in particular, I know we bang on about this all the time on the podcast and on our reviews and stuff, but the Crusade system is so good. Really, really enjoyed playing games through that. So another thing with the airbrush is make sure that you've got your needle cleaned as well. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see there, there's quite a lot of muck that's come off that. And it's hard to see that initially. To give it a hand, what I would do, just put a bit of airbrush cleaner on a rag, preferably clean, and then if you just wipe that through, it will take off any grime and paint that's still on there, because that can affect the flow and how well it sprays. Take the gloves off now. Equally, the nozzle, take it off and just give that a bit of a clean in the cap and inside it as well, because you can get paint in the kind of crevices there, which again will transfer. Let's get a new bit of toilet paper here to clean it out. So Legion Master Jacopo, I'm in Italy, so I've not played a game for at least 7 months, and a new lockdown has started, so I guess I'll have to wait even longer. Yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. Where about in Italy do you hail from, Jacopo? I know Italy have been a similar situation to us, in and out of lockdowns, which does impact our game playing, unfortunately. Daniel, I've never played 30k. You've never played 30k? I thought you'd be all over a Emperor's Children Army, Daniel. But if there's a new box, I would. To be honest, I don't play enough. Haven't played AOS Coaches Sigmar event early December. Haven't played since AOS Coaches Sigmar event early December. Cool. It's I'm trying to think of the last Sigmar game that we played. I've got a feeling it was the Sons of Behemat release weekend, which I think was the day before we went back into lockdown. Me and Dave were super lucky that I think we put the review out on the Saturday. We had the battle report on the Sunday, which we streamed live. Should be available on YouTube if you want to check that out. That's the last game of Warhammer I think I had. That's a little bit sad, really. But we'll get there. We'll get to the point where we can play games again. It'll be worth it. And it's better to be safe and see this virus disappear than play games. I know it's frustrating for everyone. It's been a long time, but yeah, I'd rather everyone be well rather than play some games. And it'll be worth it when we all can. I'm sure we'll all be headed to Warhammer World and having a big event, a bit of a celebration when we can play games again. So yeah. So what have we got going down? Hamster Wrath. I think GW is part of some solo stuff for AOS. Not quite the same, but might pass a few hours. Yeah. So I believe there was a couple of articles that went up on Warhammer Community letting you play solo games of Warcry, and I think there was a solo Sigmar scenario as well. If you've got Blackstone Fortress, which I believe may be out of production now, you can actually play that solo as well. So if you control a few of the heroes, you can easily play through a campaign solo, which is good. So there are some solo play options. It's not quite the same as playing games with friends, but it's the best we can do. I've seen a lot of people play Warhammer Underworlds remotely as well. So set up identical boards, have a camera, something like this set up, and then when they make a move, just make sure you make the matching move. Works pretty well. Due to mental health and health problems, I've not been able to go out in 2 years. Sorry to hear that. Hopefully painting's a nice little outlet to enjoy the hobby though in some way. Daniel, very thankful to have dodged all this nonsense. So yeah, I was ill for about a week and a half back in November. Came back negative, thankfully, but I do wonder if that was the dreaded plague of Nurgle. So what we're going to do is find some paint that's probably already out on my desk. Yes, it is. Iron Hand Steel. I'm going to go in with a brush and take this off now. I don't need the turntable. I'm going to go in on the silver areas where we have gone over it with the green, just so we can get a base steel on those before we go in with some contrast colours to wash them down. And then at the same time we'll hit all these rivets, so that'll be riveting entertainment. And yeah, once we've done that, we're a fair chunk of the way through. It's surprising how quickly you can paint up tanks. A big model seems like something that would a big model seems like something that would take a lot of work to do, but actually in reality you can rattle them out pretty quickly. So let's get some paint down on the palette, and we will get some colours down on this Land Raider. But yeah, I wanted to paint one of these for ages. It's been one of those kits. Oops, before we do this, it's been one of those kits that I've always fancied getting. It's such a nice model, and like I say, it gives me massive nostalgia for Epic 40k, because the tank is the same kind of layout as that one, Also gives me massive kind of first edition nostalgia, because it has the main body is the same as that original plastic Land Raider they put out all those years ago. Like somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, I'd love to see a plastic one of these. Definitely be easier to build than the resin one. That said, for an older kit, went together pretty well. Just one thing to watch on those older kits, the instructions can be a bit cryptic. I haven't got one to hand. The new Forge World instructions are really, really nice. Put together on a computer and really easy to follow. The old ones are a step up from an exploded diagram of the model, so not the easiest to follow, unfortunately. But yeah, they go together okay. What I'd say is make sure you got some reference photos of it from maybe the Forge World website, just so you can put it together. It's going to make it a lot easier if you can see those images of the finished model. So BitMyth, they stopped producing Silver Tower. I really liked that. Yeah, Silver Tower was a really nice game. I never picked up the sequel, Shadows over Hammerhelm, I think it was called. Something like that. That supposedly took the system and improved it further. It was a bit more RPG based than the first Silver Tower. And then in Blackstone Fortress, they've kind of like built on the same game further. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with the Warhammer Quest series, because I think we probably are due a new one. I know a lot of people really enjoyed the game, and a fantasy one. I mean, even if they did a proper Warhammer Fantasy one, that'd be amazing. That'd be something I definitely want to pick up. So yeah. Scratched my wargaming, RPG and board game itch all at once. Yeah, it is really nice, and I think it was a nice entry product for people as well. People who maybe not played a war game but have played a board game or have played, Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. It's a bit more accessible than saying to someone, right, to play this game, you need to paint 80 models. You just had the opponents in the box, you had the heroes that could easily be painted up by each person in the party themselves. There was options for using different heroes from the wider Age of Sigmar range as well. Yeah, I think Silver Tower was a really good game, and I hope we get another Warhammer Quest set in the Mortal Realms, because I think there's lots of scope for lots of different things they could do. You could have something set in Beastgrave, maybe. That'd be cool. Or, even if it was, I don't know, we've got the Broken Realms series currently going on, which, apologies if you've not read it, but spoilers, ends with Marathi's elves taking the city and a bit of a civil war breaking out. And I think that would be a good basis of one of these kind of games. There's a few parts in the book where they're going through some tunnels where there's some hydras or charybdises in there, and I think a lot of that would translate to different scenarios in a Warhammer Quest style game. So yeah, and that'd be really fun. Let's see what's going down in the chat. How many models did you manage to paint during lockdown period? So, Legion Master Jacopo, I did paint a lot. 2 seconds. If I find my trusty notebook for the podcast, I did write down in a previous show how many models I've managed to get through. A lot. So I from start to finish did 424 models, and then based and finished off 60. There was an awful lot of stuff. It's lockdown meant that a lot of people couldn't do stuff. Obviously, we couldn't play games, so I put that time into painting models, which I think was a good use of time. The logic being that when we get out of lockdown, we'll be able to do lots of battle reports and live streams and stuff. Unfortunately, we've not been able to do that yet, but yeah, those armies are all painted and ready to go for when we can do them. we mentioned earlier when Ben was on. I think doing some Middle-earth would be fun. I haven't seen a lot in the way of Middle-earth content online compared to the mainline Citadel games. So yeah, definitely think we need to give some Middle-earth this love this year. Jay, I know, is a fan of Middle-earth, and he's got some elves that he'll use, and some dwarfs, I think. Dave, I don't think was ever completely sold on Middle-earth. I don't think Dave got on with the scale of the models and a lot of them being metal. So yeah. Hammerfell needed a GM, which is fine if you had one or someone willing. See, I enjoy being a games master. I quite enjoy that part of it, so I was quite keen to play it. I don't know why I never picked it up. It had loads of models in it as well. Question to Dave: how are you finding being a new dad and still getting some hobby in? I found it a bit of a challenge at times. So yeah, I imagine a lot of your hobby time and hobby funds and stuff does change when you've got a little one. Not in that situation myself, so I haven't got any input into that, unfortunately, but yeah, I'm sure Dave will pop that in the chat. Jay, Mistweaver Sai from the Silver Tower. Yeah, no, we were chatting about this on the podcast last week, I want to say. I think it was last week. The episode that Kerry was on from the Hobby Room. And yeah, it's we do wonder, is that a concept for an army that's still going, or maybe is that something that has been an idea that's not going to progress any further? You know, we've seen some stuff in Silver Tower, like the what were they called? The scuttlers, the grots with spider legs. They were really, really cool. I'd like to see them expanded into an army. Yeah, I do wonder if some of those elf characters have maybe disappeared. One of them looked quite dark elfy and more assassin-y, which would fit in with the new Daughters of Cain. I don't know where Malarian's going to fit into all this, because I've got a feeling that the Umbraneth were mentioned in a Warhammer community article that then got edited and had mention of them removed. So I don't know if someone maybe jumped the gun there, maybe on the community team. But the way Broken Realms Morathi ends, essentially Morathi's put together an alliance of the Daughters of Cain, the Anvilgard elves, so essentially all the old dark elf style elves, and it's implied that the Idoneth Deepkin have joined her cause. And Sigmar ain't going to be the happiest that she's pretty much taken a city off him. So could we potentially see an evil elf faction with all those different factions in it? And then you've got the Sylvaneth, who are kind of neutral, really. Alariel didn't really want to get involved with Morathi and Sigmar's assault on the Varan Spire. She helped him, but strictly speaking, it was nothing to do with the Sylvaneth, and she didn't want to get him involved. So they're kind of like neutral. And then you've got the Lumineth being the quote marks good guys. And I'm sure they can't be trusted. And there's some internal conflicts with them and Sigmar as well. I don't think Teclis will be too happy about the fact that Sigmar essentially fell into Morathi's trap by allowing her access to what she needed in order to complete her ritual. And Teclis would have heavily advised against helping Morathi and doing this failed assault on the Varan Spire. Obviously, it was all part of Morathi's plan, and maybe even kind of fracturing of the Order faction, maybe getting split down into smaller groups of armies. I think that'd be an interesting way for them to take the lore for the next edition of Age of Sigmar. So Hamster Wrath, I like the Doomseeker, I think it was. The Sigmarite Priest was fun with his Gryph-hound. Anything with a Gryph-hound is fun. He's very little and sleeps a lot, so at the moment I'm sneaking a good amount of hobby in. So yeah, Dave, you've managed to paint a load of stuff while you've been looking after the little one. It's I know Jay said similar when he had his kids, that the unusual hours do help for getting some painting in. Yeah, some ace models in that set. The Spider Van Grot's only one. Dave says maybe it'll be a little bit harder when he's moving around. Get him painting, Dave. Get him basing some models. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure a newborn can do that. No problem at all. I've also found I sneak bits of hobby in before work, on dinner and such. Dave, would you say that's because you're enjoying painting the Necrons? I find that if you find a project that you really enjoy doing, you're more likely to try and get some extra bits of hobby in, and maybe that's why you've found your love in the Necrons after bouncing between every other army in the range. Legion Master Jacopo, Holy Emperor, those are a lot of medals. Yeah, the Spider Grots were great. Perks of working from home. Yeah, it's very strange. So I've been working from home since 2 weeks before the UK lockdown. They sent us home from work, and yeah, I've been in briefly to do some training and stuff since then. It's been very strange working from home, but it has meant that I've been able to, normally I'd walk home from work. That's 40 minutes gone, where now I can turn off the computer and get the paints out. So in a way, lockdown definitely has helped with the hobby projects this year. So bizarrely thankful for it in that way. So Dave's popped the podcast in the chat. The Daughters of Cain always struck me as a hilarious choice as an Order army. And as I'm sure I've said before, Order doesn't always equal good. No, so Order's unusual, isn't it? It's not, strictly speaking, it isn't the good faction. It's more Order as opposed to Chaos. But you saw some strange allegiances in there. So the Daughters of Cain, I mean, she's shown her true colours now, but even before, there was something not quite trustworthy about them. She was manipulating things behind the scenes and had all the souls coming from Slaanesh to her. She had the choice cuts of souls, and it was always building up to her betraying everyone and being an absolute pain. So yeah. Cool. So has anyone got a new project they're looking forward to starting? I know the Slaanesh forces, the models, the Slangor, want to get some paint on them. Very much so. Is anybody else waiting for new armies to come out, or holding fire on a new project until they see a replacement model? It is a weird one. I think once we hit March and releases go back to normal, I think we're going to have an absolute shed load of new releases coming out. We've got Titanica stuff that we know about. We've got the new Titan that was glimpsed in the trailer the other week. Really excited to see what that is. Presumably it'll have a book to go alongside it, so looking forward to seeing that. Necromunda, we've had the what are they called? Fear Cats on pre-order this week. They are really nice. I kind of want to do an Escher Force to add them to. I believe the first quarter this year there isn't going to be a House of book, but they're going to be catching up on some of the releases that are missing from the previous books. So there's quite a few kits that we've seen in the House of series that need to be released. We've got rules for. It'd be good to get them all with models ready to go. And then obviously we've got the other two House of books coming later in the year, so very much looking forward to them. And hopefully by that point we can play a game, because we've been saying since just before lockdown we should do a campaign. And unfortunately, Nurgle won. But we'll get to it. And I've got a load of scenery painted now as well, so I think we can do some fun Necromunda streams when we can. We're looking forward to that. I'm really looking forward to playing a lot of the kind of not mainline games, so a lot of the specialist stuff. Blood Bowl's obviously had a new edition recently that we've not been able to play because of lockdown, which is a bit of a repeating theme here, I'm afraid, but that's how the year's gone. But, you know, it has been good for painting and hobby. I feel the community has pulled together as well to try and keep everybody sane during this period. I know it's been tough for a lot of people, and, you know, some people really struggle not having that kind of human interaction. I'm a miserable so-and-so that hates people, so it's it's not affected me too much, but I have missed playing games, and I've really missed not being able to do events. We've been lucky enough to do a couple of events. So at the start of last year, there was a Purple Sparkly Unicorns event that we managed to do. I think we managed to actually sneak in a Age of Sigmar one in January, and then there was a 40k one like the week before lockdown. For the Age of Sigmar one, I took my ever chosen list, so Archeon and friends, and embarrassingly got beaten by Grots live on the hobby room stream. If you head over to the hobby room on YouTube, I think they've got the battle report, but it'll be on Twitter as well. And yeah, Archeon, the Lord of the End Times, was laid low by a lowly Grot. So he will have to get his revenge at some point and take down Kerry's army, because that's unacceptable behaviour for the Lord of the End Times. So Hamster Wrath, hold up, fellow Order allies, let my sacrifice this innocent and drink their blood, be right with you. Yeah, something not right with them. Daniel Forge would finally dispatch my order, so I'm hoping to get some fallen started soon. Oh, excellent! I know you were a little concerned because you'd ordered yours. I think you'd ordered yours before mine, and obviously my stuff came recently on account of I'm currently painting it. So yeah, looking forward to seeing a fallen, eh? Looking forward to seeing them. They should be good. Jay, trying to limit myself to 2 30k armies and the Luminous. Cool. Have you got any 40k plans this year, Jay? I mean, it all depends what books are coming out, doesn't it? I've got a feeling we'll see a lot of codexes this year. In the same way that we did for Sigmar when they released the second edition of the book, they rattled through the battle tomes pretty quickly. I think we'll probably see the same for 40k this year. Obviously, we've got the new edition out. There's been a couple of delays and stuff just because of, you know, COVID and everything. But I think once we get through the first couple of months of the year, I think we're going to see rapid fire codex releases. Maybe a couple of books a month would be really cool. You know, we know we've got I think on Warcom they said that there's going to be at least one 40k book every month. So we've had the Death Guard. We know we've got Drakari in the new battle box coming. That looks really cool. I'd be very tempted to put together a Drakari force with that. There's Sisters of Battle in that box, so normally the battle boxes tend to have armies that are close to each other in release order. So for AOS last year we had Tzeentch and Caradhran Overlords both in the battle box around the same time of year, and they were both followed with individual releases. So yes, so maybe Sisters of Battle are not far off. We know the Dark Angels are coming as well. So yeah, outside that, I think no doubt Games Workshop will have another online preview at some point. They tend to show stuff coming within the next 3 months because obviously things can change and they don't want to show you stuff out too far out in the future. So nice rule of thumb is that if it's on a preview, it's going to be out in the next next 3 months or so. There's been a bit of Middle-earth stuff as well that we've seen previewed. So, Treebeard, he should be on his way soon. We had quite a few things added back to the Middle-earth range as well. That went for... Well, I say they went for pre-order tomorrow. For yesterday, sorry. A lot of it went out of stock very quickly, so I think a lot of people were excited to get their hands on the new Middle-earth bits that were returning to the range. Thankfully, they did confirm that they are returning to the range. It isn't a made-to-order. It isn't a limited stock situation, so you will be able to get those again. Unfortunately, you might just have to wait a little bit for them to come back in stock, but that's no biggie. So then we've done that side of the tank. Not looking too bad, so we'll start painting the other track now. Just adjust this camera so you can see a little bit better. So yeah, we'll start painting this side of the tank now. Lots of rivets, but once this is done, that's a good chunk of the tank out the way and sorted already. Nice quick progress on this, which is good. I do prefer to get things done as soon as I can. So what's going down in the chat? New Year's hobby goal for me is to build a 2,000 point Space Marine army to play some games and try to settle my hobby magpie out with building the 1 HQ and 1 troop from every first founding. That sounds cool. Space Marines are a nice army to work on as well. Do you know what Space Marine faction you're going to do your 2,000 points on? There's lots of nice options. Equally, creating your own chapter can be fun. Have your own colour scheme and your own lore, and invent some heroes. That's always something I fancy doing. If you check, Ben was in the chat earlier. Check out his Twitter. He's been working on the Jade Paladins, who have I think they've defeated the Sprues and Brews team 4 or 5 times now. But they look really good, and he's been writing a bit of narrative for them and come up with characters. So yeah, that kind of stuff really appeals. I'd like to do some of that. That's one of my hobby resolutions for this year, to try and get some kind of narrative done for them. Hamster Rat, take care everyone. I have to slink off to do some mundane things. Have a good stream. Cheers, Hamster. Thanks for joining us as ever. It's great having you in the chat. Jay, I've got a couple of projects in mind. Aspect reinforcements for Craftworld Eldar, a Farsight Enclave detachment for my Tau, and the Hive Mind is starting to whisper in my ear. Yeah, I really like the Tyranids. I've got a Genestealer Cult army that I've got about 1,000 points painted. I need to finish them off, and I would really quite fancy doing some Tyranids as well. I know Dave's got a bit of a Tyranids army as well, so I think if Tyranids get a new book and some new kits, and it's as flavourful as the Death Guard book we've just had, I can see a lot of people starting Tyranids, because I think it'd be really fun to play. 2,000 points of Ultramarines, excellent. Yeah, I've never painted an Ultramarine. Oh, I tell a lie. I have painted a single Ultramarine. Let me get him. So I don't know if you've have seen some of the conversion competitions, Bits Havoc. But last October, I think, I put together this guy, Ratadon the Normonger, and on his base there is an Ultramarine. That is the only Ultramarine I've painted. So I do want to paint the 30k Gulliman at some point. I think that'd be a bit of fun to do, but I don't think I'd do a full Ultramarine army. I don't think I'd feel it. Nidze, you've been mentioning a lot recently. Dave nearly beat Ben last time. Daniel says Tyranids would be good army for the airbrush. Yeah, I do believe you're right there. Tyranids would be really good with contrast as well. So contrast works really well on like organic armies rather than stuff with panels and line and like stuff like this and Space Marines. I find that sometimes the paint can go a bit streaky because it's trying to kind of settle in the crevices and the cracks and stuff. But with nice organic things like Tyranids, Lizardmen, Seraphon, Ideneth, that kind of stuff, yeah, contrast's amazing. So yeah, well worth giving them a go on. Dave's just got over 1,000 points of fully painted Tyranids. I think the new book will make them scary once again. That's a lot of assumptions considering they haven't announced a new Tyranid book yet, Dave. I imagine we are going to see books for all of the armies though, in short order. Certainly sooner rather than later, because yeah, I think that'd be pretty fun. So what time are we on? Ooh, time flies when you're having fun. We're coming up to the 2-hour mark, guys. So another 15 minutes or so. We're gonna have to call it there, I'm afraid. Now I've got both cameras though. We'll probably start doing the Wednesday night streams as well. So don't want to clash with Warhammer TV because I think a lot of people who might want to watch the stream are probably watching Warhammer TV as well. So what we'll probably do is have the Wednesday stream start when Warhammer TV finishes. So it's about 7. So we'll probably start about 7:30 maybe. And then 7, 8, 9. We'll see how far we go. On a Wednesday night stream, I might even stream longer than the 2 hours. Hopefully get some paint on the rest of these tanks. And we're certainly getting there with this. How are we looking, guys? Does that look alright? I feel I've got a lot done in 2 hours. So yeah, definitely feels like I've managed to get stuff done during the stream, which is good. And like I say, if you have any feedback or anything you'd like to see in future streams, just give us a shout because yeah, happy to take on all feedback. If there's anything you'd change, hopefully we're looking a lot better with the second camera now as well. I have actually got a third camera kicking around, so we might be able to get a top-down camera as well at some point. But yeah, trial and error. Dave and Jay have also said they want to get involved in this too. So, guys, once you've got some cameras and stuff set up, we can give that a go and get you guys on the stream, and we'll have a bit of a collective hobby painting session. And then maybe, you know, if there's any of you guys who want to make a guest appearance, we might be able to get you on here as well, and that'd be a bit of fun. Dave's popping off now to sort dinner. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, folks. Cheers for watching, Dave, and hope you feel better soon. Daniel Watson, it took me a good week to make this much progress. So I did cheat a lot with the airbrush. You can get a lot down in a short space of time with the airbrush. It really does help if you are trying to paint armies on the quick. You know, this is by far not Golden Demon standard, but happy with this for the tabletop. And again, once this is dried, I'll probably try and get some pictures up on Twitter to show the progress we've made so far. Now, in the last few streams, I've jumped from project to project. So, would you guys rather me hold fire painting this and complete it on the next stream, or are you happy for me to be jumping between random projects? Let me know what you think. Doing this to entertain you guys. So, if you'd rather me carry on with this project on the next stream, I can certainly do that. I've got lots of stuff I can paint in the background while I'm not on it. My logic so far has been paint some different things on the stream to add a bit of variety. So we're not painting, you know, 2 weeks of Aliens, 2 weeks of Horus. But if you'd like to see that, yeah, let me know. That's good feedback I'd like to have. But yeah, he's getting there. He's certainly getting there. So after this, for my Sons of Horus, I've got some I think you might just be sneaking on camera. We've got a squad of veterans I want to paint up. I've got a Dreadclaw that has been primed that we want to get some paint on. And a Termite I built up yesterday that's been primed, along with a Predator, an old school Predator that, oh yeah, it's here. Just because I really like the Forge World Predator model. So yeah, once they're done, I think I've got a unit of Terminators to build, and then that's 3,000 points of Sons of Horus done. So if I can get them done by the end of, what are we on now? We're mid-Jan. I might be able to get them done by the end of Jan, to be fair. See how fast we can paint this up. But that'd be good, and then that means going into February I can focus on the Head Knights of Slaanesh. So Daniel says, I think it's nice to see some variety. Brilliant. Cool. Well, I shall continue doing that then and have some different things to paint on the stream. A lot of the... I know this isn't like a painting tutorial, but hopefully a lot of the different techniques and stuff you can apply elsewhere. I'm glad that the airbrush sounded okay on the stream as well. So, yeah, it's been fun painting up the Sons of Horus. I've enjoyed doing them. I'm really on the Horus Heresy hype again. Like, I think Daniel might have said in the chat, if we saw a new starter box, I think a lot of people would jump on board and paint them. But if you look on Facebook and Twitter, there is an active Horus Heresy community. Lots of people doing some painting, modelling, getting some games on. So, yeah, it's definitely an active community. So, don't believe anyone who says that Horus Heresy is dead, because it's far from dead. There's loads of cool stuff going on in the Horus Heresy at the minute. So yeah, this week's podcast as well should be out on Tuesday. We will be talking all about the new Death Guard Codex. So if you've not seen it, we've got a full review of the Death Guard Codex here on YouTube. So if you check our other videos for that, you should be able to find that. There's also an accompanying write-up over on Sprues and Brews too. So spruesandbrews.com. You should be able to find our full write-up of the Death Guard book on there as well. And then, like I say, on the podcast, we're going to be covering the book in some more detail as well. So going over some of the things that I found interesting, some of the stuff that works, some of the stuff that doesn't work, and basically generally what I think about the book. Really looking forward to playing some games with the Death Guard. I think it's going to be a bit of fun. And then, yeah, our top 3 this week. We want to know your top 3 hobby products, non-paint hobby products. So whether it be weathering powders, tufts of grass, maybe different scenic elements that you use on bases. If you head over to Twitter, and Jay, if you're still in the chat, if you could pop that in, that'd be much appreciated. We've got a thread where you can add your top 3, and we'll read out the best ones on the show. If you've not listened to the podcast before, give us a go. We basically talk hobby once a week, discuss the latest releases, we cover our reviews on there, and basically, yeah, just have a bit of a chat about the hobby. Family friendly show we try to make as well, so yeah, no stuff that'll put off any younger audiences, because we want to try and make sure we're accessible for everyone. Is the I suppose the way of putting it. But yeah, this is pretty happy with this. 2 hours, get the base colours down. We've managed to get most of the rivets done. Yeah, that's not bad progress at all, I don't think. So, what's everyone doing this week? Anyone doing anything nice? Anyone going anywhere? I know a lot of people in the UK won't be able to head out, but has anyone got any kind of game plans? Maybe there's quite a lot of single player board games you can get at the minute. Anyone tried any of them? picked up Scythe for Christmas, and that's got a single player mode. I'm looking forward to giving a go. I don't know if anyone else in the chat has maybe played that before and can give me any pointers on how to play it as single player. And again, if I find some single player games, I might do a stream on them as well while we're still unable to do battle reports. That'd be fun for a bit of a change. I've also, in non-Warhammer related news, finished building the Lego Diagon Alley. So I'm a bit of a Lego fan as well as a miniatures fan, and I was very lucky to get Diagon Alley off my wife for Christmas, surprise presents. And yeah, I've spent the last week or so painting that up, building that really nice model. I had to rearrange my study a little bit to find space for it because it's a massive Lego set, but it looks really nice. So yeah, don't know if anyone else out there is into Lego and the like. There's loads of Lego kits that I'd like to get, but rapidly running out of room. So yeah. Jay says, doesn't know how to tweet the URL. Will it not let you just copy and paste it into the chat, Jay? So, yeah. Awesome. We've got a long weekend next week for Australia Day, so I'm looking forward to that. Sadly means I won't be here next Sunday night. Oh no, well, like I say, now I've got the second camera. I should have all the gear now, so we can do the Wednesday stream. So I don't know what time that will be for you in Australia. Wednesday at 7:30 UK time. I don't know if that's easier for you to get onto, maybe. And then see how we go. If these streams are popular and people like them, we could certainly do some more of them as well. Certainly, if Jay and Dave can join in too. That way, they can do some streaming and I can man the chat and do the technical side and look after it. Cheers, Jay. You're an IT professional, honest. Yeah. Arcane Twitter links. That's scary stuff to operate. But yeah, if you head over to that link that Jay's just posted in the chat, you'll be able to see our top 3 and post your picks. If you get them into us by tomorrow, and then yeah, the best ones will feature on the podcast, where we'll talk all things hobby accessory. Because there's some really good hobby accessories out there. As my night shift, it'll be bedtime. Oh well, we'll see you. I'm sure we'll see you when you're next available, Daniel. It's always a pleasure to have you in the chat. So yeah. But I think we've managed to time that pretty well. We've got a lot of this done. So what we'll do next, once this is dry, we're going to pop some Basilicarum Grey over the silver. It'll bring the colour down quite a bit, and then we'll probably give it a dry brush. And then yeah, we will be almost done on at least the initial colours of this Land Raider. I don't think that's bad progress for 2 hours work. It's I'd stay on longer because I know we've got quite a bit to do, but it's alas, it's my wife's birthday today, so I don't think she'd be too happy if I'd be streaming all day today. So yeah, so we're going to cut it there. That's the end of our 2 hour slot today. I hope you've enjoyed that. As ever, if you've got any feedback for us, give us a shout either here on YouTube or over on our Twitter or Facebook pages. Really enjoyed doing these painting streams with you guys, so we'll certainly be continuing with these going forward. But yeah, until next time, we'll see you all later, and I hope you've enjoyed the show.